Hi, my name's Robbie Stewart and I'm from Roslyns, the hospitality business specialist. In this video, we're going to take a look at trading as a limited company. As you begin your journey with Just Add Talent, you will be required to trade as a limited company. It's a little like being self-employed, but instead you're employed by your own company. If you've never done this before, it can be a little daunting and a bit confusing. So in this guide, we're going to take a look at what you need to know to trade as a limited company for the first time. So what we're going to run through is what a limited company actually is and how you set one up. And then we're going to take a look at how you actually operate as a limited company. So a limited company is a type of business structure that's separate from its owners, the shareholders. That means that the company itself can enter into contracts, own property, make money and take on debts, rather than the individual owners being personally liable for the business debts. So a limited company, it's incorporated at Companies House, which means it's registered as a separate legal entity. This allows the business to limit its liability, protecting its owners from personal financial risk if the company runs into financial difficulties or legal issues. Now, a limited company must have at least one director and one shareholder, who can be the same person. Directors are responsible for managing the day-to-day operations of the business, while shareholders own a portion of the company and are entitled to a share of profits. So you're going to be required to set a registered office for your limited company. This is usually your accountant's address, and Roslyns do this for our clients at no charge. A limited company is required to file annual accounts and an annual confirmation statement with Companies House, as well as pay corporation tax on its profits and comply with various legal and regulatory requirements. We'll go into that in a little more detail as we progress through this video. So how do you go about setting up a limited company? There's various ways of doing it. You can do it yourself. You can set up your own limited company through Companies House online or through some forms. The pros and the cons of each of these, well, the pros for the DIY option is it's the cheapest. It costs around £12 to just go through the entire process of registration yourself. The cons are it can be a little bit complex, especially if you've never done this before. Now, there are online guides available, so don't be too daunted. But if you do make a mistake and you've misunderstood something, it can cause delays to the creation of your company or mean unintended consequences discovered further down the line. Another option is Roslyns, my own company. Now, one of the pros, it's a low cost. It's not quite as cheap as doing it yourself. We charge £50 for one of our specialists to apply for the limited company for you, which is one of the cons. Whilst it's one of our experts doing it, so you don't have to deal with the complexity, it is still cheaper at £12 to do it yourself. You can also use a solicitor. Now, using a solicitor, the pro is clear. A solicitor is going to be able to give you assistance if it's complicated. So if, for example, you're going in to create the limited company with people who are already directors of limited companies, or you need to weight shares in an unusual way, a solicitor can help do that. The con, as with many things with solicitors, sadly, it can be very expensive. Lastly, there's a number of online services. If you enter into a search engine, set up a limited company, you'll see a huge number, many of whom are paying a lot of money for ads on Google, for example. The pro for there is that it's a medium cost and it's relatively straightforward. You give them some basic information and they run with it. The con is, well, a lot of the time these companies are trying to get you to have add-ons. So they'll tell you that they can create a business bank account for you. This is something that personally I wouldn't be keen on somebody else setting up on my behalf. You would have to sort of question the motivation of a company who would, what are they getting from that relationship with who would be your bank. So for my money, I would go with the first two, either get us to do it or do it yourself. So once you're set up as a limited company and you start to trade, how do you operate as a limited company? Well, various things you have to do. Now, the first thing, register for VAT. Your company must register for VAT. Now, this is a requirement for Just Add Talent operators. We can do this for you. We do it for our clients, no problem. It's all part of the fee. However, I must emphasize that it's very important this is done as soon as possible. I would also recommend getting your accountant to do it for you, because it can cause delays if you do it yourself and there's a mistake being made in the application, for example. Also, your accountant should have a good process to follow up that. There's a lot of delays with HMRC currently, so I can't emphasize enough, register for VAT through your accountant preferably as soon as possible. Now, you'll also have to register for self-employment. As a company director, you will earn income as a wage from your company, but also from drawings, dividends from your company. We'll talk more about those later. So you need to register with HMRC as someone who is now self-employed. You'll have to set up a business bank account. That's a legal requirement for a limited company. You can't just use your normal personal bank account for the business. And you'll have to get insurance. You're going to be an employer, so employer's liability is the bare minimum that you require. This can be sourced online easily. Double check with Star Pubs and Bars about any other requirements for insurance that your company may be required to operate as a Just Add Talent operator. You'll also be required legally, as a limited company, to keep accurate records of all income and expenses. We help our clients with this. It's something you should expect your accountant to do and to advise on. And lastly, you will be expected to complete tax returns. We'll talk about tax quite soon. We do this for our clients. You should expect your accountant to do it. It's a complicated process, really, and not something I would advise doing yourself. So another part of being a Just Add Talent operator is that you're going to be an employer. Now, if you've not been an employer before, it's important to understand the basics of what being an employer entails. Again, there's more registration. So you have to register with HMRC as an employer and apply for your PAYE number, your pay-as-you-earn number. Again, this is something we do on our clients' behalf. There's a lot of things that we're going to be running through in this video that your accountant, whether that be Roslyns or someone else, would be expected to do for you. But it's important that you understand what's being done for you and what needs to be done. So employment contracts is something else you're required to provide as an employer. We offer free 24/7 HR advice and contract templates, but contracts are something that you're legally obliged to provide to your employees within quite a short time of them starting with your employment. And relating to employees, there are things called the 2P regulations. Now, that's the transfer of undertakings for the protection of employment. Essentially, if you're taking over the business from someone else trading at the same premises, you may be subject to 2P rules. What that means is that the employees who are working there have rights to continue their employment. That's something that our clients can receive more information about through their HR and legal advice line or from their business development manager. Now, workplace pensions. As an employer, you're also required to provide your employees with access to a workplace pension scheme. Again, this is something we set up, but you should be aware that it's a legal requirement. And health and safety. You have to consider, as an employer, the safety of your employees. Health and safety support is also available from our HR and legal team, but it's something definitely that you really must consider. So, if you're wanting to take a quick break, now's the time to pause the video. We're only about 10 minutes in, but there's a lot to take in, and I'm sure you're making notes as we go. What we're going to talk about after this is tax. So if you want to go for a quick tea break, you can pause now. Okay, well, assuming anybody who wanted to has gone for a break, let's crack on. So, taxes. Firstly, we're going to look at business taxes. VAT. So what this means to you is that you pay 20% of your business income to HMRC on a quarterly basis. For your business, as a Just Add Talent operator, this is quite simple as you charge 20% VAT on top of the share of the earnings that you get paid by Star Pubs and Bars. So let's drill down into that a little more. So for example, in 1 week, if your pub takes £20,000 say, Just Add Talent give you 25% of that as an example percentage. So your income in this example would be £5,000. However, you then charge Just Add Talent for your management services at £5,000 plus 20% VAT. So you would actually charge £6,000. Then, when it comes time to pay VAT on that amount, the taxman wants 20%, which is the £1,000. So from your £6,000 income, you simply put the £1,000 VAT into a separate account that week. So when the taxman does come to collect it through your quarterly VAT return, you've saved it. It's there, able to be handed over. The other £5,000 is for you to spend on your staff and other outgoings such as your own income. Your P32 employer's tax. So you pay tax as an employer to HMRC too. The monthly employer's tax return is called a P32. This is a form used to report how much you owe in national insurance contributions, PAYE, which you'll remember we talked about registering for previously, to HMRC on behalf of your employees. So, on a monthly basis, we will provide the P32 bill amount to our clients, who then simply go online and make that payment to HMRC. It's relatively straightforward, but it's a tax you must remember that you are liable to be paying for. Now, corporation tax. This is another tax that's payable, and this is payable on company profits as a limited company. Now, the current rate of UK corp tax is 19%. That means 19% of your profits are payable to HMRC. So, for example, if you made £100,000 in profit, you wish, then they would that business would need to pay £19,000 in corporation tax. As mentioned here, we do calculate and submit that return for our clients. Your accountant should be doing that. Again, we're just making sure that you understand what should be done on your behalf. Now, the deadline for filing the return and paying any tax owed, it's usually about 9 months after the end of the financial year. Your financial year runs from when you first set your company up, your limited company, for a full 12-month period. Now we're going to look at personal taxes. Now, your personal taxes are known as self-assessment. Again, we look after these on behalf of our clients. Now, as it says here, if you're just on the payroll from a business, what we're going to call, in inverted commas, normal employment, all of your taxes, your national insurance contributions, anything like that, are all calculated and deducted at source by your employer. You'll see it on your payslip. You'll have your gross pay, a series of tax deductions, and then your net pay that actually you receive. Now, when you're self-employed as a director of a limited company, you're not just on the payroll of your company. You'll also end up taking drawings. Now, drawings are money that you take out your company for personal use. Or dividends, which is the technical term for payments made at the end of the year, usually to shareholders of the company, including the directors, in a proportion that is equal to the amount of shares that they own of that company. Essentially, though, at the end of the financial year, whether it's called drawings, whether it's called dividends, it's all treated as dividends from an income point of view. But if you see the words discussed, drawings and dividends, that's the difference from what people are talking about. So for that reason, you're not having your tax deducted on every bit of income through a pay slip. So you, as a self-employed company director, now must submit tax returns, called self-assessments, to tell HMRC about your income and therefore how much you owe in taxes. You then pay the relevant taxes. So it sounds a little bit complicated. As I keep mentioning, we do look after that for our clients. And again, whoever your accountant is should be looking after that for you. The first step as a first part of self-assessment is registering for self-assessment in the first place. It's the process, as we say, by how you tell HMRC how much income tax you owe. Now, we register you for this, we can track your income, submit your tax returns each year. So registering is the step that we mentioned earlier. That registration for self-assessment is all part of being self-employed. Submitting it yourself, well, a tax year runs from the 6th of April, at the start of that tax year, to the 5th of April, and that's the end of your tax year. So when you're looking at your self-assessment tax return, that's the period which HMRC will want to know what your income was, so that it then can calculate how much you owe in tax. So to know when your first tax return requires filing with HMRC, you simply compare your self-employment start date to the first 5th of April, which, as we see in the top line here, is the end of that tax year. So then the tax needs filing by the following 31st of January. Now this is very complicated. Unless you work with this day in, day out, it can spin around your head a little with the different dates. It's not simple, which is why we hugely recommend having your accountant do this for you. Let's use an example here to try and make it a bit clearer. If I were to start trading on the 3rd of the 7th, 2023, that is during that 2023 to 2024 tax year. If you see there, from the 6th of April, 1 year, to the 5th of April, the next year. So the first 5th of April after that date when I started trading wouldn't be until the 5th of April 2024. That means I need to file and pay by the following 31st of January, which the following 31st of January after the 5th of April 2024 isn't until the 31st of January 2025. Now you can see how potentially people can get into trouble if they're not thinking about their tax returns. Now we help our clients, advise them regularly so they know how much to be put into one side, but it's very important that you're aware of that. When you're taxed at source through your payslip as an employee, when you're not self-employed, you don't notice the tax coming out of your wages so much because it's taxed at source. So the money you get in your pocket, that's after tax. You've paid your tax, you don't have to worry about it. When you're self-employed and submitting self-assessments, you have to keep a good eye on your money, because not all of that money is yours. You must remember at some point, and it could be quite a way away, you will be required to pay income tax on that. And HMRC don't accept excuses that you forgot or that you've spent it all already. So when it comes time to pay for your self-assessment tax return, let's look at that. Some things that you must remember here. For your first payment, you're paying for the past year's owed tax plus an advance payment for the next 6 months that's been calculated by HMRC on that previous year. So it's very important to put money to one side to pay your self-assessment tax return. It's normally split into 2 equal instalments, one due on the 31st of January and one due on the 31st of July. I keep mentioning this, but it is important to be careful with your business income. You must keep it separate from personal spending. It's a lot simpler when you are keeping your bank account separate. As I mentioned earlier in the video, you will need to set up a business bank account, and you'll want to keep your spending very separate with your personal bank account. I also strongly recommend opening another bank account simply for tax savings. There you would transfer in your VAT and some money towards your self-assessment on a weekly basis. Then you're keeping that money to one side for when HMRC come and ask for it. Big takeaway from this slide, very important to put money aside regularly towards your tax bills. Remember that you don't get to just keep all of your income. So throughout this, we've mentioned how, yes, Roslyns are accountancy and payroll providers, etc. Now, whether or not you do use Roslyns for your services, you will need to engage the services of an accountant from the earliest stages. So you will need their help with a business plan, with registrations. We spoke about that earlier, registering for self-assessment, PAYE, etc. To do your accounts, and that includes submitting all the tax returns. To operate a payroll service for you to pay your staff. Limited company work and things like your corporation tax return that we spoke about. Things like a confirmation statement, which is an annual legal requirement when you have a limited company. You'll also want to make sure that they're providing you with some sort of support through a business development manager or dedicated accountant, for example. It's very complicated working for yourself for the first time, especially as a limited company. There's a lot to remember, and you will need that support, particularly in the early days. So we advise that you do make sure you're using a licensed trade specialist and make sure you know the full cost of everything you need up front. So throughout this video, you've got an idea of what you're going to have an accountant do for you. Now you've got a basic understanding of what it is to be trading as a limited company, and you know what you need from them, so they should tell you exactly how much all of that is going to be ahead of time. Now, you don't have to use Roslyns as your provider of business services. We would love you to, and you'd be in very good company. If you do choose to come with Roslyns, we offer an all-inclusive package. You get a list of everything that you need, and that is just £38 a week. Breakdown on here is it's all of your setup for your tax, your self-employment, etc. Your accounts, some annual accounts, your quarterly VAT returns, the self-assessment for one director, support and advice from your Roslyns business development manager, a payroll and pension service. As we say here, that offers up to 35 pay slips a month included, and it's only a couple of quid if you go over that. And also limited company accounts. We discussed your corporation tax, your confirmation statements, etc. And as discussed previously in the video, we offer our clients a free 24/7 HR and legal helpline. There's also a lot of health and safety advice on there as well. And that's just £38 a week. When it's the business plan stage, we are able to provide a fantastic business plan in great detail for you, and that's just £150. And again, previously mentioned, we can set up your limited company for you for just £50. So I hope this has answered some questions for you and prepared you with a rough outline of what it is to start a limited company and to trade as a limited company with all of the responsibilities and taxes that there are. If you do have any further questions, we're always happy to help. We're not going to charge you for asking a question. So you can contact us either through the website, where you'll find a lot of other guides and tools that will help you in your business, but also you can contact us through support@roslyns.co.uk. Your inquiry will be sent to the appropriate person, whether it's your local Roslyns Business Development Manager, or it may even come to myself. Any questions you've got about being self-employed with Just Add Talent, or about being a limited company, even if it relates to your particular circumstances and you're not sure how to progress given your circumstances, we're very happy to advise you on that, and we're not going to send you a bill for asking a question. So thank you very much for your time. It's much appreciated, and good luck on your Just Add Talent journey.